What percentage of MicroStrategy stock is in Bitcoin? Is it 100% or what's the percentage of it?
Well,
not the technology. I know the technology, but of the investments you guys make, what percentage is Bitcoin?
We have $30 billion of Bitcoin and we have $60 million of cash.
I got it. So 99%.
More than 99 point something.
Sure, that makes sense.
All of our liquid assets are Bitcoin. We're a very pure play, and we don't diversify and we don't hedge. Sometimes people say, well, why don't you diversify or why don't you hedge? And the answer is because everybody that buys our stock doesn't want us to hedge. The people that short my stock, they want me to be long. The people that are long want me to be long Bitcoin. You can diversify using our stock. If you want to be 5% exposed to Bitcoin, you can either buy 5%, you could put 5%, if you had $100 million and you wanted 5% Bitcoin, you could buy $5 million of IBIT, or you could buy less. You could buy $2 or $3 million of MicroStrategy because we're like 2x Bitcoin. So, and if you want to be 98% something else, that's your decision.
I wonder who shorted you guys. I'm looking at Carisdale Capital, a hedge fund that has shorted MicroStrategy, right? Who else? Anybody else that's known that shorted you guys that was against you?
Well, first of all, I think there's like 35 or $40 billion of put interest, short interest in the options market, a lot. And there's probably $10 billion of short equity. But they fall into two categories. Some people don't like crypto or they don't like Bitcoin. Actually, so that's one reason. They might short it because they don't like the asset class and they just short it naked. Another group of people might be macro traders, and maybe they're shorting it to hedge another bullish play, or because they think there's going to be a negative macro event, and Bitcoin is a macro asset. So if you want to take a negative short macro play, like when there's a missile scare, the Iran-Israeli missile crisis, and people think there's going to be war in the Middle East, Bitcoin trades down. And so if on Saturday night or something, or if you think something like that, you might want to take a short macro view. And because you can't short Bitcoin with leverage, but you can short MicroStrategy with these options. Right. So if you wanted just a macro handle, you might do it. And then the third class are these arbitrageurs that think that they want to short MicroStrategy and go long Bitcoin because they're going to bet that the premium we trade against is going to compress. And that was the Carisdale trade.
I got it. And I'm looking at an article that says over the next 3 years, you're planning on buying another $42 billion of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So you can't get enough of this.
No, well, I mean, I think Bitcoin was it was a $90 billion asset class in March of 2000 when I was first looking at it. And then by August, it was about $180 billion asset class. And right now, 4 years later, it's $1.8 trillion asset class. And I think it's going to 18 trillion, then 180 trillion, then it's going to go beyond that. So I think it's a very simple thing. I think Bitcoin is going to grow from 0.1% of the money in the world to 7% of the money in the world over the next 21 years. And of course, you should just go long and keep buying it.
0.1% to, you said 7%?
Yeah, it'll go from like 1.8 trillion to $240 trillion, and it'll go up 29% a year, ARR. That is my base case.
And I've heard you say that in 21 years, it's going to be at $13 million
That takes you to 13 million a coin.
13 million a coin.
13 million a coin.
At 29%.
Every Bitcoin you don't buy is going to cost you $13 million, my friend.
Every Think Bitcoin. Hard. So let me ask this question.
Your Ford Bitcoin Ferrari is going to be a $55 million thing.
Let me ask this question. So right now, what's MicroStrategy worth today? What's the number? 74 billion? Whatever the number was, right? Can you look up MicroStrategy market cap? I'm just curious. Okay, $73 billion today. If you're saying 0.1% today, it's going to go to 7%. That's 700x, right? So if it's 90,000 today, if I do 13 million divided by 90,000, you're expecting to 144x MicroStrategy in 21 years. If I do 144 times 73 billion, You're estimating to be a $10.5 trillion company in 21 years. Is that correct? Give or take.
Yeah, I guess with that math, yeah. Bitcoin goes from 90,000 to 13 million. So multiply 13 divided by 90,000, it gets you to a big number.
You were given it.
But Elon's forecasting 30 trillion. So we're still chasing after the robots and the self-flying cars.
So the 30 trillion he's forecasting is what? That's not Bitcoin. That's just what he's forecasting.
Oh, for Tesla.
For Tesla.
For Tesla.
And that's what he's saying he's going to be at in 21 years.
That's what I heard. And
Okay.
I think he's going to go faster. I don't think he said 21 years. Mine is a long-range forecast. I don't know what time frame.
How's your relationship with them, with Elon?
We all love Elon.
Okay, so but you're also a super psycho competitor as well. I don't think you're a guy that's sitting on the sidelines just wanting to be. You're also a very
I
competitive.
stay in
guy.
my lane. He does rockets and satellites and cars and robots. I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm just about Bitcoin.
So let me ask this: when somebody sits there and you're like, okay, I'm going to build a company, right?
Yeah.
If you build a company and you're going to take the money, you're going to say, I'm going to reinvest it in whatever I operate, okay? And what I operate, I can foresee growing it, pick a number, 100% a year, okay? Even if you grow a company 100% a year, let's just say your first year you do whatever, $1 million, okay? Second year you do 2 million, 4, 8, 16 million, 32 million, 64 million, 128 million, 256 million. $500 million, 1 billion, 2 billion, 4 billion, 8 billion, 16 billion, 32 billion, 64 billion, 128 billion, 250 billion, $500 million, 1 trillion. Let's look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. If a person started a business today that did $1 million this year and they grew at 100%, the next 20 years, even in 20 years, when you're a $10.5 trillion company, they're just going to be a $1 trillion company. So you're seeing this as, rather than operating a company, we're going to be better off just knowing what's going to happen to Bitcoin because Bitcoin's going to be the next Manhattan.
Basically, what I'm saying is that the 29% ARR is the risk-free cost of capital in the crypto economy. And the way you get to that number is Bitcoin's been going up about 55 or 60% a year for the past 4 years. It's been going up a little bit faster before that. But right now, Bitcoin's appreciating 60% a year. The S&P index, which is the conventional cost of capital, is more like 14, 15% a year. So you've got like a 4x difference. The mainstream economy is plus 15 points. Bitcoin is 60. They're going to converge. As Bitcoin gets to the size of the S&P, when it's 100 trillion or 200 trillion and it's close to the S&P, it's going to be 1.5x the performance of the S&P and 1.5x the vol. The VIX, which is the S&P volatility, is about 15. The ARR is about 15. Bitcoin's like 60. I mean, you can figure it out from the law of large numbers. When Bitcoin's a $100 trillion asset class, it's not going to be as volatile. And of course, at some point, companies in the S&P are all going to hold Bitcoin. And so like if MicroStrategy gets in the S&P and Tesla owns Bitcoin and other companies, if Microsoft starts buying Bitcoin, pretty soon the performance of Bitcoin is going to goose up, is going to improve the performance of the S&P, and then Bitcoin's going to converge. Bitcoin's always going to be more volatile because it's 24/7, 365. And it's always going to be higher performance because it doesn't have the risk factors of property or companies and the like.